Hello, Mr. Hartzell. This is my story for the storytelling thing, and I hope you like it. There is a little bit of language, but it's important to the story. So this is a story that happened to me the summer of 2020. What a wonderful year, I know. No shock that this happened, but it is shocking. So, I was going to the beach with my family and my best friend Jasmine. It was me, my stepdad Dennis, my mom, and my best friend Jasmine. We left around 8 o'clock that morning. We were taking two different cars because Dennis was taking his Jeep and was taking all three of our dogs in it, Gabby, Chloe, and Cashew. And my mom was driving her Nissan SUV with her, me, and Jasmine. So me and my mom left about 8 o'clock in the morning to go pick up Jasmine, and Dennis was leaving a few minutes behind us because he still had to pack up the dogs and make sure they were all safe because our Jeep doesn't have doors on it. But he was making sure they're all safe so we could carry on with our day and make our trip to the Outer Banks, which is about a 4-hour drive, 5 hours if you hit that duck traffic really badly. But we went to go pick up Jasmine and from her house and then directly went on the highway. Dennis happened to get on it at the same time just to exit down, so he was about 5 minutes behind us. But that was, it was pretty chill. I mean, we picked her up, everything was fine, not much traffic. Me and her decided we were going to watch The Office on my phone for the duration of the trip, because she's never seen it, and I was like, girl, you have to see this. But around the 3-hour mark, I happened to look up from my phone, and I noticed that a lot of cars were starting to slam on their brakes, and I'm like, oh, there's probably traffic. But then they started to swerve, and I was like, oh, maybe there's an animal or something fell off someone's truck and was in the middle of the road. So the SUV that was in front of us swerves out of the way, and I see a man standing in the road. He was wearing brown khakis shorts, oversized yellow t-shirt, and he had really long, dirty blonde hair. But the most important detail was that he was bleeding from the top of his head, like he had blood all over his face, and blood all over his hands and on his clothes and all that stuff. Pretty creepy, right? So we're still going about 15 miles per hour, and we all three of us kind of make eye contact with the man, and the man makes eye contact with our car. And as we're still driving down the road about 15 miles per hour, traffic just hurling by us still, he starts running towards our car and jumps on our car. Now, we're still going about 15 miles per hour, and this superhuman man jumps on our moving vehicle. And that's when I was like, oh crap, what's about to go down? Jumps on our car, hooks his hand under our hood as we are still moving, and starts yelling at my mom to drive. And we're like, what is happening right now? So my mom obviously slams on her brakes and starts trying to go reverse, forward, just back and forth, trying to knock him off the hood of her car. But since he has it hooked, like his hands are hooked under the hood, there's no way that man's falling off. I mean, like, if he can jump on the car, he can stay on that car. And we were just going back and forth. And my mom starts reaching for her gun under her seat, which is concealed carry, by the way. Starts reaching for her gun under the seat. while still trying to go back and forth. It is hooked on that little bar that you use to move forward and back, but it's hooked. She can't get it out, so still trying to reverse. So me and Jasmine are looking at each other like, what is going on right now? And clicks to me, let's start banging on the windows to try to get people to help us. So we're just banging on the windows. Someone help us, because traffic is still going by us. Now, people probably thought it was some type of domestic violence or something. I don't really blame them for stopping. Of course, I wish there was that little angel that did stop, but it's okay. But then a red SUV starts slowing down beside me, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna help me. And I see him get out his phone, and I'm like, call the police. So I grab my phone and I call 911, and the 911 operator's like, 911, what's your emergency? And I'm like, a man just jumped on our car. And she's like, what? And I'm like, we were going down the highway and a man jumped on our car. Now she's like, is he hurt? Was there an accident? And I'm looking around and I'm like, that man came out of nowhere, because we're on that really long highway going to the Outer Banks where there is like no exits forever. There's no billboards and barely any signs, just a bunch of marsh and trees and forest, and I was like, no, there's no car accident. Like, this man came out of nowhere. I mean, I haven't seen an exit sign for miles, and I'm trying to explain the situation to her, and she's asking where we are, and the dyslexia of mine really kicks in, because there's a sign right there, and I'm like, Monteo, I'm just screaming out every word that this word can be. Later find out that it is pronounced Manteo. I still struggle with it. But anyways, and she's like, I don't know where that is. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to say it. And we're just freaking out. And my mom's still reversing and going forward during all of this, slamming on brakes, trying to get him off. And then Jasmine's still banging on the windows, like, someone please help. And I'm still kind of doing it while I'm on the phone with the operator. And then I guess that maybe provoked him a little, because he the man on our car proceeded to turn around, slam his one fist into the windshield, yelling at my mom, drive, bitch, drive, and then cracks our windshield. And that's when all three of us proceed to scream, because before we had this car protecting us, but now we're like, this man is about to jump in our car and get to us. So we're freaking out. I tell the operator, he just broke the windshield. And she's trying to get me to stay calm while trying to figure out. She's like, I'm sending police your way. And I'm like, okay. And then as my mom finally gets the gun out and starts to unzip it, she reverses one more time. And like magic, all four of us turned around and saw an ambulance just flying down the highway. And since he's turned around to see the ambulance, car stopped at this point, he jumps off our car and just dead bolts to the ambulance. I've never seen a man run so fast in my life. I mean, he was just and go. I mean, he was superhuman. And I mean, it was crazy. And so my mom finally pulls off to the side of the road. I tell the operator that the ambulance is here, that I'm going to call my stepdad. And she's like, are you okay? Are you all okay? And I'm like, yes, thank you so much. And she's like, okay, have a great day. And I said, thanks, you too. And I hang up. And so my mom's making sure that we're all okay. And I'm telling her that we're fine, that we didn't even look, that our eyes were closed, which is a lie. I just trying to get her to calm down. And that I called the police, everything's fine, we're all good. She's like, I would have done anything to protect you girls. If he was going to come in here, I would have unloaded off of him. And we're like, we know. And she's like, I'm so upset right now. And I'm like, we're like, we know, everything's okay, you're fine. Trying to calm down, trying to calm everyone's anxiety, because me and my mom struggle with anxiety disorder. Jasmine is just being her little angel chill self over there. I'm trying to calm her down for my sake and mostly hers, but again, mostly mine. And she proceeds to jump out of the car, and I'm like, Mom, please stay in here, because the last thing police need is a hysterical woman running at them. But she does not listen to me and starts running towards the police, and I'm like, no, stop. And the police, I can hear my mom yelling, that motherfucker jumped on my car, that motherfucker jumped on my car. And I'm like, oh my God. And she and the police is trying to get her to calm down, and obviously that's not working. But they walk her back to the car. I because my mom at that point cannot think straight, cannot blame her. I explained to him what just happened, and he was like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding. And he makes sure that we're okay. He gets our story. My mom has calmed down at this point. I called Dennis and I explained to him the situation, and he was like, what? And I'm like, I know, only this would happen to us, right? And he was like, yeah, no kidding. I'll be there in a few minutes, because he was still behind us at that point. And I was like, okay. And so then Dennis finally gets there. He calms Mom down. He talks to the police officer. The police officer explains that, you know, it's probably going to take a little bit to get over this. He tells us to have fun on our family vacation, that we're about to go chill and relax. He asked to take a picture of our car because, you know, there's bloody handprints all over it. The hood is dented from where I guess he either jumped from when he jumped on our car, or slamming his heels into our car. I asked the police officer if he could clean off our car, because, you know, at that point, I just didn't want to drive the rest of our vacation with bloody handprints. And he was like, I can't really touch it. And my mom was like, I got it. And then did the little spray thing to get off all the blood. There was still blood on our hood, but yeah. So I asked the police officer how they got there so fast, because I was kind of wondering, because all of this had gone down in probably a matter of 2-3 minutes. And he was like, well, we actually got a couple calls before of people seeing a bloody man walking on the side of the highway, and apparently earlier at a exit miles down, a bunch of people saw one of his, I guess, friends holding his head on the pavement, like crushing his head into the pavement, which would explain the bleeding. Yeah, so we kind of continued the rest of our vacation drive down to the Outer Banks, and we just kind of tried to laugh about it. I tried to control my anxiety and not throw up, because I was freaking out. But my mom congratulated me on being so chill and assertive in trying to figure out what to do and not entirely trying to freak out. She said, you're gonna do just fine in the world. And I said, thank you. But yeah, so that was really funny. We laughed about it on the way down there. That night, me and Jasmine had a little bit of struggle looking out windows. Definitely that night, and I think for the next 2 or 3 days, we were struggling looking out of windows, because every time I looked out a window, I saw the situation going down. I think Jasmine does. I know me and my mom do. Whenever we're in a car and we see someone walking on the side of the road, or, you know, people like asking money on the side of the road, or, you know, handing out newspapers, I know I get a little bit anxious. I can see her get a little bit tight too. But the police called us the next day and asked how we were doing, and we're like, we're all fine. We're all fine, we're doing good. And my mom asked him what the man was on. And apparently he was on meth, LSD, weed. He was drunk. I think he was also on cocaine. I don't know. That man was just flying. He wasn't even here. He was just in his own little world. Bless his heart. But apparently, I mean, all that stuff gave him like superhuman powers, because the police officer also explained to us that when they finally got him into the ambulance, and the EMSs were trying to like handcuff him down to the bed, he got a hold of one of the EMS's hands and like ripped it and tore all the ligaments and broke a few bones. So yeah, fun little story. I couldn't tell the story for a while. I don't know if you could tell. It still chokes me up a little bit. I try just to laugh about it now. We're doing okay. Mom got a new car. It's kind of hard to look out that windshield. All I can see is the scenario going down from time to time. If I get the right angle of a windshield, I still get a little PTSD about it. But you know, it's super fun, vibey. Got a new car out of it. From my mom anyways. She loves that car. Yeah. This is a situation that would only happen to us. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my story.